Hi, hello, and welcome to Unnati Education videos, dear students. So, we have seen so far the first unit in physics, first PU physics, that is physical world. Now, we are moving into the next unit. So, actually, next unit is units and measurement. That we will study later. After studying all the other units, it will be easier for understanding that unit. That is why at the end we will study that. So before that unit, we will now take up motion in straight line. Motion in straight line. Okay. So we are into our next unit, motion in straight line. Some important words, some new words maybe for you, we have to understand here. Let us see one by one. First one is mechanics. You know, we have seen so far in physical world itself, mechanics is study of objects in motion and rest. If an object is at rest or it is moving, if you study about different physical quantities related to that, that is what you call as mechanics. Okay. Then statics, study of objects at rest. If you study an object at rest, it is not at all moving, then that is called as statics. Okay. Then dynamics is the study of objects in motion. If an object is moving, if you want to study about that particular branch of physics is called dynamics. Then the word kinematics. Kinematics is the study of objects in motion without considering cause. Here, while studying about the object which is under motion, we will not consider the cause for the motion. Cause is not considered. Cause is not important here. But in the case of kinetics, see the other word kinetics, the study of objects in motion, considering cause. So cause is important here. Cause, a reason for the motion of the object, that is important here, and that is called kinetics. Okay. Then we are talking about motion in straight line, right? Motion in straight line. So we have to understand what is motion. So what is motion? When we say an object is under motion, so change in position of an object can be said as motion. Change in position of an object is called motion. Suppose if you have an object here, after some time, if you see the object reaches here, means it was the initial position. I am giving it as number 1 as initial position and 2 as a position after some time. That means I can say that object changed its position, right? With certain interval of time, it changes its position. That means I can say it is under motion, or motion is nothing but change in position of an object. Okay. Then rectilinear motion, it's a type of motion. Rectilinear motion, what is that? Motion of an object on a straight line. If this body moves along a straight line like this, then that is called as rectilinear motion. Motion along straight line is known as rectilinear motion. Then what is rest? When we say an object is at rest, no change in position of the object. When there is no change in position of the object, see, the object is at position 1 now, and after some time if I see the object, then also the object lies at the same position, means there is no change in position. That kind of situation is what you call as rest. The object is at rest, I can say. That is rest. Okay, right. So then point object. So this word we will use later in some cases. we use point object. What is that point object? Object which is very small compared to distance traveled. Suppose if you consider a bus which is moving around 100 kilometers. Just imagine a bus is moving from one city to another city and it moves around 100 kilometers. Then, if you compare the distance moved by the bus and the length of the bus or size of the bus, then that bus is very small compared to the distance it covers, right? That is 100 kilometers. So this bus can be considered as point object now. Its length is negligible, its size is negligible. That is why it is called as point object. That is what is said here. Object which is very small compared to distance traveled. That is called a point object. So far we have understood some terms: mechanics, statics, dynamics, kinetics, motion, rectilinear motion, rest, and point object. These words we may be using in between. Okay. Yes, let us continue now. The first thing, importantly, you have to study in this particular chapter, particular unit is path length. Yes, let us see what is that. Definition is given here. We'll explain later. After reading the definition, we'll understand it. Path length. Total distance traveled by an object is called path length. It has only magnitude. So, it is a scalar physical quantity. Its unit is meter. It is always positive. It is always positive. Okay, let us see what is that path length. Total distance traveled by an object is called path length. You have two cities, city 1 and city 2. A bus is traveling from city 1 to city 2, and again the bus returns back to city 1. Okay, just imagine. So then if suppose the distance, the path length between the two cities, city 1 and city 2, is 100 kilometer or 10 kilometer. Just imagine 10 kilometers is the distance between city 1 and city 2. And what we have imagined is bus goes from city 1 to city 2 and returns back to city 1. What is the total path length? The total path length covered by the bus is 10 plus 10, that is 20 kilometers, right? 20 kilometers, that is what you call as path length. So it has only magnitude, that means 20 kilometers, sorry, 20 kilometers we say, right? Or 10 kilometers. So here it has magnitude. 20 is magnitude and its unit. Kilometer is required. Otherwise, if you just say 10 or 20, it has no meaning, right? We cannot understand what is the distance. It may be 10 kilometer, 10 meter, 10 centimeter, 10 millimeter, right? So we cannot understand what is that actually. So you have to mention the unit. Unit is compulsory. And actually there is no direction. That is why it is a scalar physical quantity. So physical quantities are of two types. We can understand it later in other chapter. For the time being, you just remember the physical quantity which is having only magnitude and unit, that is called a scalar physical quantity. That is why path length is scalar physical quantity, and its unit is meter or kilometer. Here we considered kilometer, and standard unit is meter, that is given here. It is always positive. It is always positive. It will not be negative. Okay, as it has got no direction, there is no direction consideration here. We can say it is always positive. So path length is always positive. So that is about path length. I think you understood. Next, displacement. What is displacement? This is the change in position of the body in a particular direction. It has both magnitude and direction. So it is a vector physical quantity. Its unit is meter. It may be positive or negative. Therefore, if you consider x1 and x2 are initial and final positions respectively, then displacement is given by delta x or change in x, that is x1 minus x2. Okay, so what is displacement? Displacement, that is, suppose you have two positions x1 and x2, two cities x1 and x2, and the bus is moving from x1 to x2. Again, let me consider the distance between x1 and x2 is, for example, let me consider 100 meters. 100 meters. And suppose if the bus goes from x1 to x2, the displacement is 100 meters. And just imagine the bus returns back to x1. From x2 it returns back to x1. Then again it travels a path length of 100 meter here, right? So if I ask what is the total displacement in the whole journey of the bus, what is the total displacement, what you have to answer is 0 it is, because it moves from x1 to x2 100 meter and again returns back to x1, that is covering 100 meter. But actually when we see there is no displacement, because initially it was at x1 and it goes to x2 and comes back to x1, so initial and final position are same. That is why displacement will be 0. Using this equation, delta x or change in x equal to x1 minus x2, it will be 0. 100 minus 100, that will be 0, because it has got direction. That is why it is called as vector physical quantity. Okay, so that is the difference between path length and displacement. And also you remember this path length is known as distance. Okay, distance. Another word for path length is distance. And displacement is having direction. That is why it may be positive or negative. Okay, so you understood, I think. So